guys with elite speed, if that's the thing you rely on to do what you do, that usually goes a lot quicker. In fact, it certainly goes a lot quicker than a guy who relies on route running, on hands, on strength.
Right. Like when you're a 10-year veteran, you could be the best at route running as you've ever been, but it's so unlikely you're not going to be as fast as you were when you were 22.
Yes, exactly.
It's just not happening.
It's Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Colter, let's get into some hoops, okay? Crazy night last night in the Big Sky Conference, particularly when it comes to the Montana schools. The Montana Grizzlies, I mean, I don't know I've ever seen something like this. You
ever watched a game in Flagstaff?
Right, well, that's a fair point. The Grizzlies shot 68% from the floor in the second half and got outscored in the second half. They had, I think, 14 turnovers in this basketball game. This is only the second time this season in the conference play that they've lost the turnover battle in terms of the turnover ratio to a team. And also, they did not attempt one single free throw in this game for the first 59 minutes and 30 seconds. And they ended up having 2 free throw attempts, missed them both, 0 points from the line, including, by the way, a missed front end of the 1-and-1 by Kendall Manuel in a crucial moment. Now, if you haven't stepped up there and shot one in an entire game, and all of a sudden you need it, it becomes tougher. But Manuel, a 90+% free throw shooter. I mean,
he missed 5 free throws his entire season until last night.
It's incredible. And so you have that thing. Saeed Pridgett. Now, I don't know what we know or don't know about this, but a uniform malfunction for whatever that's worth.
It got left in Missoula.
Okay.
The uniform did not come.
Didn't bring the jersey. I don't know, I don't know the process for this, if the responsibility is on the kid, if the responsibility is on the equipment person. In any case, he's out there running around wearing the number 12, and I'm not saying that's the reason, but also concurrently didn't score a point for 33 and a half minutes. The number one scorer on this team for 2 seasons doesn't have a point on the board. He did score 8 points in a 2-minute stretch in the back half of the second half, but then was held still not even in double-digit scoring for the first time in 41 outings. And even though the Grizzlies ultimately down the stretch had a 7-point lead with over 3 minutes to go, they were outscored 8-0 in the final 3 minutes and change and lose the game by a point on a last-second foul call in which Northern Arizona, down 1, goes to the line, makes 2 free throws. The Grizzlies, length of the floor, attempted inbound pass, sails high, out of bounds, NAU, wins. So just bizarre, many of the circumstances surrounding this basketball game and the way that it ended up playing out.
I usually make fun of people that say, oh, it was a homer job. It was the refs are on one side. And I don't think that was necessarily the case last night. But I'm not sure how it's possible to play a Division I basketball game that lasts 40 minutes and have one team not draw a single shooting foul. Both the times that Montana went to the line, it was non-shooting fouls, and both times Timmy Falls, Kendall Manuel missed the front end of 1-on-1s.
Mm-hmm.
How can you play a full basketball game where there's no shooting fouls called? There's so many things that can go into that. Are you not attacking the rim? What's the defensive plan? Why are you being hesitant? But also, where's the whistle? Where's the calls? I don't know. It just seems completely perplexing. That said, 2 points. First, I am not surprised one bit Montana lost this game last night. I think it was the most losable game in the second half of their entire schedule. I would have predicted them to lose this game last night. And secondly, I don't think it hurts them at all. Now they're tied with Eastern Washington, Northern Colorado for the number 1 spot in the conference. But I really don't know. I think that going into the league tournament, I said yesterday on the show that I thought that if you really believe that you are better than everybody else in the league, then maybe riding a 7 or 8 game winning streak going in the league tournament could be a good thing. After watching last night, I guarantee you Travis DeCuire is going to have this team's attention going into the last 3 games of the year. Sac State had their second largest margin of victory in the history of their Big Sky Conference era. I mean, since they joined
29 points.
Since they joined the Big Sky in '96, they've never beat anybody by 29 points, save one time. So that the way that sets up for a potential letdown, combined with the fact that they're going to play a Grizz team that is all of a sudden has a renewed sense of urgency, I won't be surprised if the Grizz just smoke Sac State in Sacramento tomorrow. But either way, I don't know what the deal was with Saeed Pridgett last night. A lot of it I thought was just NAU running an unorthodox defense that kind of junked it up. You could tell NAU wanted to take the ball out of Pridgett and Manuel's hands and make guys like Jared Samuelson beat them. Samuelson had a good game. He scored 19 points. Manuel got it going a little bit in the second half. But Pridgett, when you take him away as both a scorer and a facilitator, that's what really kills you if you're Montana. And I thought that NAU did that at a high level. I just thought this NAU team, honestly, this NAU team, their top four are as good as there is in the league. I mean, Bernie Andre is he's a game-changing type player. He's the best high-energy guy in the league.
20 points last night.
And then you pair him with skilled guys like Cam Shelton, Brooks DeBishop, and Luka Dolovic, and they're a good team. They will be a team that could threaten in Boise for sure. But I don't think this is the end of the world for the Grizz. I actually think this is a loss where if you're going to have one, this is one where maybe you're okay with losing. That said, they won't be okay with losing it, and that's why it's not a bad loss, because I think that they will come back with a renewed sense of urgency going down the stretch.
As it pertains to the 1 seed in Boise, too, Montana still controls their own destiny. They're in a 3-way tie with Eastern Washington and Northern Colorado, but they've already beaten Eastern Washington twice, so they own the tie break there. So even though they're even, they have the lead. Northern Colorado, they've lost to, but they play them again in the second to last game of the season. In fact, on Thursday, which is going to be a great game in Missoula. You got to get out for that basketball game against Northern Colorado, 1 versus 2, probably for the title, for the conference championship. But if they win that game, even though they will split of the season, obviously, if they both win tomorrow, Montana will have a game up. Back a game ahead of them in the standings, and so they control their own destiny in terms of the number 1 seed overall. You know, I agree with you that this is a game that felt like it was one that could get Montana, but this was an anomalous game. This wasn't a game where you could go figure that. You know, Saeed Pridgett's going to have a goose egg for over 3/4 of this contest. That they're not going to shoot a single free throw in a shooting situation in an entire basketball game. I mean, that is completely bizarre. By the way, if you're wondering, Northern Arizona 12 of 17 from the line. I mean, they got their fair shots. Jared Samuelson, you know, even though it was in a losing effort, went 9 of 12 from the field. I mean, unbelievable, 80% for 19 points. But he was equaled by Bernie Andre, who went 9 of 12. In fact, did one better in the scoring, where he ended up with 20 points in this basketball game. Kendall Manuel did his normal 50% from everywhere, was 6 of 12 from the field, 4 of 8 from beyond the arc, had 16. But again, what's going to stick with him is that he missed a free throw, which he almost never, because he had an opportunity up 1 to make 2 to go up 3 with 6 seconds to go. And he missed the front end of it, and the Grizzlies paid for it. You know, that's the way it goes. I understand what you're saying about the loss. I don't know. You have to, because it is a loss, because that's a fact now, you do have to turn that around and make that pay for you going forward. You have to turn that into whatever you turn it into, whether it's teach tape, whether it's motivation, all of the above, to continue forward and use that to your advantage. But I don't know that if you go back to 7 seconds to go in the game, that Coach DeCure is hoping, for the sake of the future of the season, that Kendall Manuel misses a pair and they lose a game.
No doubt. No, I totally agree. But this game, especially when you just look at the box score, it comes down to so much of what we talk about in the league all the time. A lot of it is what your leaders and your best players do, but most of the time the determining factor, especially against 2 teams in the top 5, are what your non-star players do. And you look at, you held Saeed Pridgett in check to 8 points. That's nearly 12 points below his season scoring average. It's a great job. Manuel got to just right around where he's been at all year. Samuelson surpassed it. So your 3 seniors, they combined for 43 points. Mm-hmm. It's not that far away from what they usually score.
And by the way,
it's that everybody else didn't do almost anything. I mean, it's not even that they shot poorly or anything like that. There was just no real shots to even be had. I mean, Timmy Falls shot the ball twice. Mac Anderson shot the ball once. Kyle Owen shot the ball once. Josh Vasquez shot the ball once. And Derek Carter-Hollinger went 2 of 6. That's where you are held below 60, and you can't hang with a team on their home court who definitely had it out for Montana last night. I mean, you could tell that they were smelling the upset for sure. I thought the Grizz did a good job on Brooks to Bishop.
Yeah, they held him to 4. Because the converse of everything you said is true. I mean, 2 guys, Bernie Andre and Cam, go for 35 for NAU, and they only scored 57. The entire rest of the team, barely over 20 points, and Brooks to Bishop held to 4.
Right, and I thought the Grizz did a good job on him. It was a weird game, but it's not. I mean, everything about that place is just weird. And I'm not trying to make excuses for the Grizz, but I don't think anybody thought this Grizz team was going to surpass last year's league record. And I think that we thought they were going to, if they really did maximize their potential, 16-4 would be about where they'd be. And right now they still have that in their sights. And so now, as we know, it's been very rare that in the second half of conference play that the Grizz have gone and lost 2 games in a row. They hardly ever let one loss turn into 2. They've had 2-game blips the first half of the conference season, each of the last 3 years, and then ripped off big winning streaks after that. They had the 2-game blip this year with Weber State and at Portland State, and then they ripped off 6 in a row. But then you have this little blip. Okay. I mean, the thing is, the Grizz didn't play well last night. It's been a little while. It's been several weeks since they didn't play well. It's been since they played at Portland State that they haven't played well. Even the best teams are going to not play well some nights. You just never know when you're not feeling it. Your legs are weird. You had a hard test earlier in the week. You just don't have the energy. Who knows? But if you can get those games out of the way when it's not a one-and-done situation, it's better for you.
It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. The flip side of that coin, the Lady Grizz last night played the number 2 team in the Big Sky Conference, Northern Arizona, in Missoula. And early on, you thought, oh, man, this is not going well. 18-8 was the score in favor of the Lumberjacks.
14-2, in fact, too.
14-2 to start, 18-8 at the end of the first quarter.
I mean, Lakers threw the ball into the stands half a dozen times the first 5 minutes of the game. You could tell they were incredibly nervous.
Very. And how about this? 15 turnovers in the first half for Montana, 0 in the second half.
Yep.
I mean, 15 turnovers for the game, and then none. That is remarkable to have that imbalance, that asymmetry when it comes to the turnovers. But Montana outscored NAU in each of the next 3 quarters and won handily, ultimately by 13. This game was a 5-point game with about 3 or 4 minutes to go, and the Lady Grizz finished on an 8-0 run and extended this thing out to 13 and outscored Northern Arizona by 23 points in the last 3 quarters. So that was outstanding. They had several players, again, they've had very even scoring in a lot of their contests this season, but 4 players in double figures. Mackenzie Johnston led the way with 14, 3 others with 13, one of whom is Jamie Pickens. She's the two-time Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Montana.
Indeed.
Phenomenal freshman from Helena playing for the Lady Grizz. She got 19 minutes last night, and honestly, I don't know why she got that few. I mean, she's
only playing 14 minutes a game. I think the 3 biggest criticisms that I would have of the Lady Grizz, I don't want to criticize them right now because I would actually stand on the table and say this was the biggest win of the season.
They absolutely had to have it.
They had to have it.
And they were in a bad spot early in this game, and it could have gone way the wrong way, and they didn't let that happen.
And the most consistent number 1 criticism I have of this team is when things are rolling, they're good.
Yeah.
They actually can be very good.
Yeah.
When things aren't, they fold. They just melt. Mm-hmm. And when they were just throwing the ball all over, they had 10 turnovers in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, oh, man, this is ugly. I mean, they're going to get routed. They're going to lose by 30 on their home court, and this is going to be the beginning of the end. This team's going to melt down the stretch. They're not going to get a bye. And for the first time in a long time, they clicked it in. One factor, tremendous crowd last night. 3,500 and change.
Yep.
It was as many people as there was in Bozeman to watch the Cat Grizz game. Mm-hmm. So that's huge. Having the Red Wave band always is going to boost attendance. Having all the middle school kids in the whole city out there banging on the cymbals and playing the tuba. Everybody's parents come out. It's all. I mean, it heightens the atmosphere, but it was a huge game for Montana. You could tell they felt the pressure early, But for the first time in a long time, they turned the corner and finished the thing. But one of the other criticisms I have of this team is, first of all, they aren't a great shooting team, yet they still take a lot of ill-advised and three-point shots. They have a lot of slashing players that are great athletes, just not great shooters. Sophia Stiles, you can tell, is hurt.
Yep.
So she should be a shooter, but she just can't really do it right now.
Yeah.
You can tell her knee is bugging her. I mean, everything was bugging her last night. Her left knee, her right leg was something, either her ankle or right leg. Her shoulder is killing her. I mean, you can just tell she's not quite right. But that said, the one girl on the team that was a shooter and should be a shooter, that can be a shooter, is Taylor Goligoski. And you had to be so happy for her as someone that came in, got thrust into a starting role as a true freshman out of Hamilton High School, I guess redshirt freshman out of Hamilton High School, probably played a lot more and had a lot bigger scoring responsibility than maybe she was ready for, but then settled in as one of the go-to scorers on this team as a sophomore. And then as a junior, she's kind of getting pushed for minutes, and then she gets hurt. And she's never been able to really break back into the starting lineup. And it really, I think, affected her confidence. So for her to go on a little run that she did, she had a streak there in the mid-third quarter to early fourth quarter where she hit that three-pointer right before the halftime, 3 seconds to go in the first half to cut it to 1. And then she scored, I think, 9 of her 11 second-half points during one little spurt. And it was great to see for her as a pretty much a local product to embrace it and come off of that injury and make those shots. That's huge. But then the last thing is Mackenzie Johnson's a tough-nosed player. She was able to help them close this thing out. Maddie Schoening probably plays above her own gifts more than maybe any player in the league. And she continues to be someone that you can't keep off the court, even if you do have more talented players. But the number one thing is that there's no question in my mind that the best player on the Lady Grizz, the most talented player on the Lady Grizz, is Jamie Pickens.
Yeah.
I don't think it's even close. I think she has one of the best natural sets of skills. Her combination of size, athleticism, and skill.
And she will shoot, too. Like, she'll take threes, and you feel better about her taking them than a lot.
They weren't throwing her the ball in the post the first 18 minutes of this game.
Yeah.
Even though she had them sealed. And NAU plays small ball. She had it sealed. They wouldn't throw her the ball. So one time, her first field goal, she ripped down the rebound, just dribbled up the court, shot a 3, and made it. And that sparked a spurt that saw her score 13 points. She is someone that needs to be more involved. 14 minutes per game, not enough for that player.
Jamie Pickens spoke with her after the game. A couple of questions here, but initially just asked, how confident are you? Because initially, you're right, they didn't get her the ball on the block, but then they did. And they started throwing it into her in the interior, and it was just about game over every time she caught it on the spot down low. Asked her how confident she is about going to work to get a bucket when she gets the ball down low.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident down low. Coaches preach that we need to get the ball and know we can score, and that's when we have good down low game, that's really what gets the spark going for our team. So I think that's what's going through my head is I need to get this team going by playing my down low game. So
referees really kind of let this game go a lot of it got fairly physical, and they're letting you guys play. Do you like that style of basketball when you can kind of go in there and mix it up a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it can get out of hand, but I like it because it prepares us for the tournament. I feel like they're going to let us play a little bit going down to Boise, so honestly it prepares us, gets us ready, makes us a tougher team. So I think we need to get some of those calls, and I think the refs did a pretty good job tonight. So
after dropping a couple, this was a big game, and you're tied for 5th, in terms of trying to get that by and everything like that. To be down 10 at the end of the first quarter, and then just work your way all the way back into it, what does that say, about the team and some of the gumption that you have?
Yeah, I think we just need to start off better as a team. That's one of our biggest flaws is getting in the game, not prepared, not ready. So I guess just coming in, getting ready for it, that's what we need to do. Playing these good teams, you can't get away with that sometimes when you do that. So I don't know, I guess just we need to be more prepared coming in playing teams.
Okay, so there you go. Got to be more prepared when you step on the floor. You can't be down 14-2 and 18-8 respectively, and that's a pretty fair assessment, I would say.
We could do a whole segment on that last quote, but we will we'll spare you until it's Boise week. But when you got 3 seniors and 3 more fourth-year juniors, and you're 26 games into the season, you shouldn't have multiple players saying that you're not ready for games. They said that after the Cat Grizz game too, and maybe it's just spouting cliches, but to hear it from Emma Stockholm, Mackenzie Johnson, and Jamie Pickens, they got to change that. I mean, it's at this point, it's not growing pains; it's unacceptable.
Shannon Schwan was asked after the game about Jamie and just the spark that she provided. Here's what she said.
Yeah, Jamie had a good run. I mean, she's been comfortable scoring, getting more comfortable all the time, and she gave us a little lift, and then our guards got it going, and Taylor came in and hit a couple of huge shots for us.
So there you go. Shannon Schwain talking about Jamie Pickens and what she did, getting the team ready to go. So it was fantastic for the Lady Grizz, though, to get that win. And again, against a very good Northern Arizona team. This is the number 2 team in the Big Sky Conference. This is one that they had to have. They got it. They got double-digit wins on the conference schedule, and now they have a team that is licking their wounds after getting smoke showed by Montana State yesterday in southern Utah, coming to Missoula tomorrow afternoon. Sacramento State, excuse me, coming to Missoula tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock for that game. So we'll talk more about what happened in Bozeman a little later on in the show. Right now, take a quick break. We'll come back. Our Mattress Firm Student of the Week is going to join us. She is McKinley Mihalish from Helena Capital High School, a senior there. And we're also going to give away a little something to the people. We got a rip session, what do we got, basketball cards?
We got the Crown Royal, the brand new ones. This is, if the Zion Williamson is in here, I'm leaving. I'm walking out.
It's Christmas for Coulter next.
You hear the term small business all the time, but what does it mean? The answer is, it depends. Whether you're a one-woman show or employ over 100 people, at Farmers State Bank, your business is never small to us. Find the tools for success at any Farmers State Bank location or check us out online at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, helping businesses succeed since 1907. Member FDIC.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree Podcast, Episode 7 is out now, featuring a University of Montana legend, Larry Kristoviak. Coulter, Coach Kristoviak had one of the great playing careers at the University of Montana and then returned to his alma mater to be the head coach for 2 seasons in 04 and 05 and 05 and 06, went to the NC2A tournament both seasons, and in his second and final season at UM, they became the last team in the Big Sky Conference to win an NC2A tournament game.
We call this the Grizz Greats, and he is one of the greatest Grizz of them all. Larry Kristoviak, an in-state product who went to high school in Missoula, was the only 3-time MVP in the history of Montana basketball and the only player to ever score 2,000 points and grab 1,000 rebounds in his decorated career. A phenomenal career for Larry Kristoviak that continues to this day at the University of Utah.
Just search Grizz Greats wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and enjoy the entire series of Grizz Greats, available thanks to Blackfoot Communications, Stockman's Bar, Hathaway Real Estate. Hey guys, Ryan Tootell and Colton Nuanez from Tootell and Nuanez. Hey, we're not just here for your entertainment, we're also a bastion of knowledge and information as well.
If you want to know what's going on in the world of youth sports, from sign-ups to camps and other activities, tune into Tootell and Nuanez on Tuesday.
That's right, interviews and information with people who know to make sure that your kids get all the best in sports that Missoula has to offer this Tuesday on Tootell and Nuanez.
The youth sports segment is brought to you by Pepsi Cola of Missoula, proudly supporting youth athletics in the Garden City.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Hi, how are you? Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez here. Some sports news for you. In Flagstaff, the Montana men fell to NAU 57-56 in a game in which the Grizz only attempted 2 free throws, missing them both in the final 30 seconds of the game. Saeed Pridgett had a jersey malfunction, a.k.a. it didn't arrive in Flagstaff, and it didn't work out for the senior, who did not score a point through the first 33 minutes and change of the game. He finished with 8, failing to reach double digits for the first time in 41 outings. Still, Montana was up 7 with just over 3 minutes to go, but NAU closed closed the game on an 8-0 run to win. The loss drops the Grizzlies into a 3-way tie for first place in the league with Eastern Washington and Northern Colorado, who both won last night. UM's final road game of the season tomorrow at Sacramento State.
First time the Grizz have lost to NAU since 2014. Pridgett's streak, the 5th longest in the entire country before it was snapped. The Lady Grizz, they were down 10 after the first quarter against second-place NAU in Dahlberg Arena, but they outscored the Lumberjacks by 23 over the final 3 periods to earn a 70-57 victory to remain in 5th place in the Big Sky. Mackenzie Johnson led the Lady Grizz in double figures, scoring with 14 points. 3 other Lady Grizz finished in double figures. Montana now 10-7, and welcome Sacramento State tomorrow at 2 p.m.
The Montana State men, they were blown out at Sac State last night, 81-52. The women, they blew out Sac State, 113-69.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
You heard that right. 113 points.
Only the second most of Tricia Binford team has scored against a Bucky Harkle Road team. How amazing is that?
What, are they letting Montana State play 80-minute games? Is that what's going on?
No, Sac State doesn't. They don't play defense.
It's a little.
They play defense on one half of the court, and it's not the half of the court that you play offense on. That's the problem. The system's broke.
It's an odd thing. Hey, you ready for a new truck? Get to Mildenberger Motors in Hamilton for the best deals on the best trucks, Duramax, Chevy, and GMC. They run DMC too, but GMC is good. So we go to the phones. Let's do it. To the Rangage Brothers RV phone line, and we welcome in our Mattress Firm Student of the Week, a senior at Helena Capital High School, McKinley Mahalish. McKinley, thank you so much for being with us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, we're doing great. Thanks so much for being with us. You are a senior, as we said, at Helena Capital. You play basketball. You've also done track all 4 years. You used to play volleyball, but then you transitioned into cross country later in your career. You've basically done it all. Well, why? Like, what? How long have you been into athletics the whole time? Your dad's the football coach. You're like, hey, this is what I'm going to do, huh?
Yeah. I've just been involved in sports since I can remember. My parents have kind of pushed me that direction. Obviously, my dad is the football coach, and he played sports his entire life. So,
did you ever think about playing football? Did you say, hey, Dad, let me strap it up. I could do this?
I actually told him that this year.
Yeah!
I told him to be one of his receivers.
There you go. That's what we need right there. Coach's kid out there running routes.
Oh, yeah.
So what inspired the transition from volleyball to cross country?
So I kind of realized at the end of my sophomore year, I wanted to focus more on running because it's my strongest sport, I think. So I just thought, I'm definitely not a distance runner, but I thought cross country would just kind of help me in that aspect.
As a senior next year, do you have, I know that you think you may want to go into like nursing or nurse practitionership, which is fantastic. Do you think in college that you might want to pursue a sport or sports?
Yeah, so I'm currently kind of talking to UM about walking onto the track team. I think it'd be really fun to play or run in college, and that's my ultimate goal. So I'm just kind of seeing how that plays out.
Very good. Well, when you first transitioned away from volleyball, Helena Capital has been awesome in volleyball the last couple of years. So I'm sure a lot of your friends and former teammates were part of these recent great runs and state championships and all that. So what was that like, kind of watching them while transitioning to another sport?
Oh, yeah. So the Barches are they're a couple of my best friends, and I'm with them like every day. So watching them with their success is awesome, and I just couldn't be more proud of either of them. And we grew up on the same basketball team, and we played together since 4th grade. So watching their success, it's just really fun.
Now, getting into basketball, the Western AA this year has been a war. I mean, you guys are great. Hellgate's great. Sentinel's great. So what's the conference play been like for you guys, and what's the outlook as the postseason approaches?
Yeah, definitely for our conference, there's not a game that you can take off. Like, everybody has something different about them that keeps them strong and competition-wise. But I think we just need to continue to chip away at what we're doing and do everything the way we want.
McKinley Mihelis joining us. She's a senior at Helena Capital. She's our Mattress Firm Student of the Week. And McKinley, I know that you also, in addition to all the athletics that you're doing, are helping out some of the kids playing basketball, some of the middle schoolers. You're out there helping out each week as sort of an assistant coach doing that. How did you get into that?
So there's a teacher at our school, and it's her daughter's team, essentially. So she kind of just came to us and asked if we would want to do it, like, every once in a while. But they're so funny, and I just remember when I was that little, and I loved when older players would come talk to us. So, and then at the camps, all the kids just love being around all the older kids. So I just thought it'd be fun to go as much as I can.
Who were some of the players that you remember, the people that were in high school at that time that came and helped you out?
I definitely remember when Kenzie Johnston would come. She would even come to, she came to a couple of my softball practices, I remember, when I played in middle school.
That's awesome. She had 14 last night, by the way, in a win for the Lady Grizz.
14 and probably a black eye today.
Yeah.
I mean, she got popped so hard, and then she went and scored, I think, 4 straight buckets right after that, which is typical Kenzie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, McKinley, that's awesome. Keep up the good work there in Helena. Best of luck here the rest of your senior year in basketball right now, and then track in the spring. And then the best to you at the University of Montana next fall in the track team, and also pursuing the nursing stuff. That's fantastic. Thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, McKinley. Our Mattress Firm Student of the Week from Helena Capital High School. If you got a student who deserves nomination, know some kid who's doing great things on and off the athletics field, whatever they're up to in their communities and their schools, go to mattressfirmmt.com. You can nominate that student online, and all the kids who become Students of the Week, they do an interview with us here on the show. They have a feature on SWX that airs statewide, and then they're in the running to be the Student Athlete of the Year this spring, end of the school year. There'll be a vote, and the winner getting a $3,000 scholarship courtesy of Mattress Firm. So that's very, very cool that they're doing that. Coulter, I know you're pumped up about this. It's time for us to do a rip session. And this time we're opening up.
This is great.
This is big time right here. Tell them about it.
So these are the Panini Crown Royals. So this is new release. This is out within the less than a month here. Get these at Zootown Sports Cards.
Yeah.
This is for your top-notch collector. If you give us a call right now, we got a little bit more of a
standard collection starting pack for you. We got $329, $18.99. I think there's 3 different Panini brands of cards in there. We've got some football, baseball, and basketball in there. A variety pack of cards to open. Show it to the camera Coulter.
So if you give us a call, 329, $18.99, we got you covered. But here, these are for top-end collectors. This box right here retails for about $220. But
how many cards are in there?
8? You got only 8 cards, but there's some memorabilia in here. So we'll rip it open. The hottest card on the market right now is the Zion Williamson memorabilia card. So we will see.
And a memorabilia card has like some what do they call it? Like jersey on it or something like that.
Jersey autograph. So let's see what we got here.
Now be very careful when you're opening this.
Oh, I will. See, you can already see the thick.
Yeah, they
in
are.
there.
There's
so we got
several thick ones. Oh, you've been waiting for a while to do this.
I have. Here we go. We got a little CJ McCollum, a little Brandon Ingram. We're just going to skip through all these ones though. Here's a little insert Aaron Gordon. That's a nice one right there.
Whew, that is
keep it clean.
That is sweet.
Got our little red label Nuanez. But
with the crown.
Here we go. Let's see what we got for our memorabilia here. Ooh, okay. We got a little jersey from Seiko Diamboye from the Pistons, and then we got ourselves a little Keldon Johnson, heirs to the throne from the Spurs. So good hits, definitely great memorabilia. Not these superstars maybe, but these are still very valuable cards. But head on down to Zootown Sports Cards. Collectors of all ages, whether you're 5 or 55, you want to get back into collecting, you want to start your kids on collecting. It's the corner of South and Higgins. They have grab bags for the kids. They got singles for sale, so if you want Kobe Bryant or any of your favorite players,
I don't want to ruin it. I want to hold it very gently.
Go check out Zootown Sports Cards, the corner of South and Higgins, right across from Dorman Blazer Field, your go-to spot for all your sports cards needs.
Chick who doesn't know sports. Love it. Next.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Alignment and Brakes and Shocks and Wheels and Tires. Some tire places don't offer all that, but we do to help keep you safe. It's our Les Schwab Founders Celebration. Get $50 off an alignment. That's nearly half off regular price when you purchase 4 Reputation or Open Range AT tires all month long. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
Seafood lovers, it's time to get cracking at the Montana Club's annual Lobster Fest. Feast on one of our 19 mouth-watering lobster dishes, live Maine lobster, succulent lobster tail, and tantalizing one-of-a-kind lobster specialties. 3 big days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, March 5th through the 7th. It only happens once a year. Don't miss it. See the menu at montanaclub.com. The Montana Club's Lobster Fest on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Matcha is a versatile green tea chock full of health benefits. Here at Florence Coffee, our high-quality matcha is full of antioxidants, fiber, and chlorophyll, while providing rich, smooth flavor to any matcha drink. Whether you order your matcha hot, iced, or blended, it'll taste great and give your body the boost it needs. Come to any Florence Coffee location or go to florencecoffeeco.com.
Hey, Gus, you ever heard of Magic Johnson?
Rings a bell.
One of the greatest basketball superstars of all time played for a man named Judd Heathcote at Michigan State. And guess what? Judd Heathcote started his career at the University of Montana.
Coulter, did you know that 2 former University of Montana head coaches have been head coaches in the NBA and 1 on Team USA?
Isn't that amazing?
And that's why we've created Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcast. Just search Grizz Greats.
It's a phenomenal and historic podcast series proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate.
Older people look at the calendar, may think about college basketball, March Madness, various things going on in the professional world, but this is an unbelievable time of year for high school sports.
In February, the competition really ratchets up in high school sports. We're headed toward the state tournaments of both basketball and wrestling, and we'll cover it all at Tootell and Nuanez, 4 to 6 p.m. every single weekday on 102.9 ESPN.
That's right, covering what matters in the state of Montana. Montana's #1 sports talk radio show, Tootell and Nuanez.
Hey, it's Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know about sports. Tune into my weekly segment on Fridays where we talk about, well, I don't really know what we talk about. Sometimes it's sports, sometimes it's athletes. It's usually gossip, but it's always funny.
The Chick Who Doesn't Know About Sports is brought to you each week by the Iron Grizz. The Iron Grizz is hosting weekly wine tastings each Wednesday beginning at 6 p.m., so tune into Tootell and Nuanez each Friday to listen to Carolyn.
That's me.
The Chick Who Doesn't Know About Sports, presented each week by the Iron Grizz next to the University of Montana Golf Course.
If it matters to Missoula, it matters to us. Ryan Tootell and Coulter Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
If I do it again, I'm gonna freak out. If I do it again, I'm gonna freak out. If I do it again, I'm gonna freak out.
Welcome back. Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. At Gus Tootell, at 102.9 at ESPN, and at Skyline Sports MT on Twitter. Go check us out there. We'd appreciate that. If you would like to listen, Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast, out now, episode 7 with Larry Kristoviak. Great conversation we had with Coach K. Appreciate him, the 7th head coach now that we've released in our lineage of Grizz Greats from the men's basketball coaching tree. So appreciate him doing that. You should go listen to it wherever you get your podcast. Just search it and enjoy. It's Friday. Oh, heavens to Betsy. I don't know why that's the opener, but it is today. Boys and girls, it's time for the Chick Who Doesn't Know Sports. Carolyn is in the house. Hello, Carolyn.
Hello.
How are you?
Great.
I would think nothing less. We do this every Friday around here. We bring Carolyn in. She does not know very much about sports. She attempts to pontificate or open our eyes up to things that we should know about sports, that she thinks that we should know about sports, and it usually goes very, very well. It is brought to us by our friends at the Iron Grizz. Carolyn, what do you got today?
Well, I don't know if this is going to apply to you, although it might.
Well, let's hope it doesn't.
Mike Tyson is offering $10 million to any man that will marry his daughter. Allegedly.
Anyone.
I think
I would I would do almost anything for $10 million, let alone marry Mike Tyson's daughter.
First of all, Coulter would pay $10 million to marry Mike Tyson's daughter.
I mean,
What about Mike Tyson? Would you marry Mike Tyson?
For $10 million?
Yeah.
All we have to do is get married?
I mean, you do with that information what you want, but yes.
I mean, we can't go down the slippery slope here, but I would do most things for $10 million.
First of all, that's not a great way, it seems to me, to start a relationship with, like, okay, I'm doing this for the money. But the other thing is, in the event that you are marrying into the Tyson family,
right,
there's sort of presumption that, yeah, you probably have access to about $10 million, right?
Well, there's also the notion that Mike Tyson lost all $335 million that he made in his career.
Right, but he's doing the Vegas show. I mean, he's back on top.
He's got the pot shop.
He's got it coming on. He was in The Hangover.
Question, who's the mother of this daughter? Is it Robin Givens?
No, I don't think they ever had a child together.
Well, thank goodness, because that would have gone real bad during that time of Mike Tyson's life.
I'm going to bring up a couple of issues with this.
Oh, okay.
One, how would you feel if you were Mike Tyson's daughter that your dad has to pimp you out for $10 million?
Well, you could just stop with would you feel if you're Mike Tyson's daughter? That in itself would be quite an experience.
You know, I don't know the answer to that question. Do we know how old she is?
I think she's late 20s. I saw a picture. I'll let you guys Google her.
Yeah. Okay.
She seems like a lovely person.
It's just this smacks of just
gimmick.
Like he's going to make money on this. Like he put this out there to get something, or he's just having fun with his daughter. He's like,
maybe.
How come you can't get married?
Right.
Oh,
I hope that's it, because that would hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Also, if you did take this on and then you broke his daughter's heart,
yes,
I would not want to be on the other side of that.
Well, no, certainly.
Angry father.
Certainly not. Yeah, we'd have to have some stipulations. Like if you just could get married and then get divorced whenever you want, then
I don't think that's really what.
You gotta stay with her forever.
I mean,
seems like. I mean, first of all, isn't that the idea? But the other thing is that, I mean, hasn't Mike Tyson has, turned over a little more sensitive leaf here later in life?
Yes.
So hopefully that the resolution to everything isn't just knock out the other person.
Well, it never really was. I mean, Mike Tyson to me is the most fascinating character in the history of sports.
The absolute number one subject
it's my
for
number
Coulter,
one thing.
Carolyn. I
Mike
mean,
Tyson
you just have opened this whole door up now, and now we're going to do this.
I was hoping for a nice conversation.
He is to me the number one most fascinating psychological experiment that's ever occurred in sports.
Go on.
Because Mike Tyson, if you know his story, Mike Tyson was essentially an orphan growing up on the streets with no one to help him. And he was arrested something like 50 times by the time he was like 11 years old. He was a petty thief. He used to just steal from people because he had to survive.
Yeah.
But he just got in the system. He got in the juvenile system, and they just kept exploiting him. Well, he learned how to box when he was in jail, and he got out of jail, and he loved it. So he started going to this boxing club. Well, there he met Cus D'Amato, and Cus D'Amato then trained him into becoming one of the most ferocious fighters ever.
Carolyn, did you ever consider naming either of your sons Cus?
It was on the list.
Yeah.
But it just didn't go well with our last name. So I said nope.
Okay. But all along, Mike Tyson to me was so much like a trained animal, a trained killer who didn't actually have the murderous mindset. He was just performing for someone that he loved.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why when he talks, kill, get him. And I think that's why when he reached this level of fame and then Cus D'Amato died, it was one of the greatest spiralings that we've ever seen. I mean, the guy went from absolutely the king of the world, the number one athlete walking planet Earth, to
prison.
A guy that did so much cocaine that he got knocked out by Buster Douglas because he stopped training, and then all of a sudden he's in prison. And he doesn't even know why, because he's so socially immature.
Yeah.
He had the social maturity of the same kid who got out of juvenile hall and started boxing when he's 12.
Well,
but he has hundreds of millions of dollars. He's traveling the world. Don King's exploiting him. If Cus D'Amato would have never died, the whole Mike Tyson story would have been completely different.
Well, not to mention being hit in the head so many times. Probably didn't help.
No doubt.
Did you hope that this is how this was going to go, Carolyn?
Yes, I did, actually.
What else you got?
Tom Brady.
Here we go. 2 days in a row, Coulter's talking about what might happen with Tam.
Well, we don't have to talk about Tom Brady, but apparently he's it's up in the air, and his reps have met with the Raiders and the Chargers thus far.
Yes.
So, breaking news.
Oh, so you're just letting us know here that there's a chance that he's not going to return to
I see
New
here.
England?
There's notes from yesterday. My bad. Okay, moving on. Olympics. Have the Olympics ever been canceled or postponed due to a pandemic?
I don't know. Black Plague in the 1800s, was it? 18-something? Is it, were the Olympics going on at that time? I know there was a long hiatus between Greece and whatever the first, quote, modern games are.
I don't think it would have affected the world because there was no way to get there.
I don't know that there were Olympics during the World War, the Second World War, perhaps even the first. I don't know exactly how.
Those might not have been over. Well, I
time.
guess World War II would have.
I know that they had the Olympics in 22, but that was in between.
Well, this coronavirus might affect the Olympics. It's already affecting the World Cup ski race in Italy. They're not allowing any spectators there. And they're going to decide by the end of May if they're going to postpone the Olympics this year.
Now, if there was a sport that required fans, actually attending the event less than downhill skiing,
how dare you?
No. Come on now. No, you come from the ski mom. I know you are. It's great to have them there, I'm sure, and you land in the thing and whatever. But in terms of the performance of it, like the person on the skis shredding the Alps at 80 miles an hour is just absolutely impervious, unaware, whatever, of anybody lining the slopes.
You don't think they hear that cowbell?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
100% no.
I'll ask my son tomorrow.
I mean, yes. Yes. Ask. Fine, let's go to
He says he usually hears me screeching.
World class.
So.
Yeah, I believe that. I'm just saying, like, the atmosphere in the event itself is just almost utterly unaffected if there's fans there or not for the skiing. For the Olympics, though, that's a whole different world.
It would be a real bummer if they had to postpone.
So, like, when you say this, I mean, where are you getting this information?
Like the Daily Mail? No, CNN. It's been all over the news. Where have you been?
It has.
Yeah.
Okay. Ryan, are you kidding me?
I mean, if it has to do with the coronavirus, it's on the news.
Yeah, I mean,
Ryan's been going to Korn concerts.
Watching
replays of football games from 7 months ago. That's all.
It's just his job.
Wednesday night, sat down, my son Kai on my lap, just the greatest thing ever. Every single play of the Super Bowl, rewatched it.
You watched the whole Super Bowl again? Is what you're saying?
Yeah,
okay.
I watched the Super Bowl over.
But not a lot of.
I did fast forward to half.
Real-time news.
Were you surprised at the outcome?
There's a lot of things that I went, oh wow, yeah, amazing.
Well, I'd be really bummed if they postponed the Olympics because there's so much that goes into planning that. I'd feel really bad for everybody involved. So fingers crossed they get this coronavirus nipped.
They will. Have you heard the one going around about the coronavirus?
Tell me.
Corona's paying like $1 billion to call it the Bud Light virus.
That's good.
I get it. Yeah, well, hopefully that they can do it. And I would love for the games to be in Tokyo. Like Tokyo, I've never been to Japan, but Tokyo is like an ultra modern city, and it seems
also flirting with and goes on and off from being the largest city in the world, right?
Is that right?
I think it and Mexico City are
in a foot race.
Whoever has a bigger day or month.
But the thing that I would like is, we've had some of this stuff. The World Cup was in South Africa. It was in Brazil. The Olympics were in Greece. They were in Sochi, the Winter Olympics. And so we've had a number, and I like it when they're in, I mean, you're not going to call Russia a developing nation, but, in some places where the infrastructure isn't all that it is in the, like, absolute first world.
Right, but then there's always the fallout after that.
Yeah, right. I mean,
because the structures are then not used, or they just become dilapidated.
Totally,
and it's such a weird thing.
And they always do a great job of production value on this stuff, so it's always interesting to watch visually when you're watching on TV. But there's stuff you can't recreate about the city of Tokyo and what you would be watching, and the the monorail train streaking across at night, all lit up and whatever, all the things. I don't know what they all are, but I am excited about just the aesthetic learning. One of the things I love about these sorts of events is the learning of the country, the cities, the things that are going on there beyond just the thing. And so I hope, obviously, that it happens. I love the Olympics anyways.
I know. It's
and,
so fun.
We can, see if we could get this coronavirus, nipped in the bud. I kind of, these are the ones where I'm a little fatalistic because it doesn't seem like I got a lot to contribute on the, on the microbial level here to helping humanity out.
Yeah, but you can't contribute to the non-fear-mongering.
Correct.
You brought up Sochi, and I want to say there's nothing. The coronavirus could not be worse than Bob Costas's eyes during the Sochi Olympics. I'm just kidding. Coronavirus is worse.
Poor Costas.
I'll never forget.
This.
Oh my God, he had pink eye, and every night it just got worse and worse.
They just kept moving the camera back and back and back.
Poor Bob.
And then they finally put Matt Lauer on.
I'm sorry.
Get out of here.
And what's worse, having pink eye during the Olympics or being 5'1"?
There's a lot of. I'd be 5'1" and have pink eye if I was Bob Costas. That's a great life.
Sick burn. Oh, I thought you were saying
no,
he's short.
Do you have anything else?
No, I don't. I'm good.
Chico Doesn't Know Sports, brought to us by the Iron Grizz. Wine tastings every single Wednesday at the Iron Grizz and food every day at the Iron Grizz. It is outstanding.
Delightful. And if you want to check out what the weekly wine tastings are, you can either tune into 102.9 ESPN. You can also tune into 104.5 The U. Or you can also visit irongrizz.com each Wednesday. They release it usually about Sunday or Monday, what the following week's pairings are going to be. This last week they had wine and cheese pairings, which I heard was delicious and delightful, but it's $15 per person. But if you give us a call right now, 329-1899, we have 2 vouchers for you. So you and a friend can go taste wine at the Iron Grizz between 5 to 7 pours. They are healthy, and you will be healthy after drinking the wine. That wine's healthy for you, right, Carol?
So
That's
good
what they
for
say.
you. That's why I have a lot all the time.
That's right. You are the bastion of health.
That's right.
Carolyn.
Look at me.
Absolutely. Well, go over to the Iron Grizz and check it out. It's a great shop they got over there, right there next to the University Golf Course on. And they're doing their own food in the gardens out front. They got a Degnab s'mores fire out front. You take the kids out there, cook s'mores at the place. Unbelievable. And the food's really good in the Wednesday wine tastings. Absolutely worth checking out. So 329-1899. If you'd like to take somebody along with yourself to that, you can do it. And we thank the Iron Grizz for bringing us Carolyn each and every Friday.
You're welcome.
Don't you want to say thank you?
Oh, thank you.
Unbelievable. Montana State. One team won big, one team lost big. We'll tell you all about it next. In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Coulter, gracious mercy, and thank the heavens, it is time once again for the NC2A men's basketball tournament. It is here, and you and I are back again with the Tootell and Nuanez Bracket Challenge.
We hook people up all over Missoula all the time, but this will be an outstanding contest with entries from all over and your chance to win a variety of great prizes, including a $250 tab at Paradise Falls or $250 worth of equipment from Aspen Sound.
That's right. We got great prize packages for first, second, and and third place. Selection Sunday is March 15th, and then you got to get your entries in between then and the start of the tournament on Thursday, the morning of the 19th. Coulter, I'm floating with anticipation and excitement, and of course, you can compare your brackets to Coulter's and mine and try and beat the dopes on the radio. Won't that be satisfying?
More than $1,000 worth of gifts we'll be giving to you, so stay tuned to Tootell Nuanez 4 to 6 p.m. each weekday for details on the ESPN Missoula Bracket Challenge, brought to you in part by Paradise Falls and Aspen Sound.
Hey, it's Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know about sports. Tune into my weekly segment on Fridays where we talk about, well, I don't really know what we talk about. Sometimes it's sports, sometimes it's athletes. It's usually gossip, but it's always funny.
The Chick Who Doesn't Know About Sports is brought to you each week by the Iron Grizz. The Iron Grizz is hosting weekly wine tastings each Wednesday beginning at 6 p.m., so tune into Tootell Nuanez each Friday to listen to Carolyn.
That's me.
The Chick Who Doesn't Know About Sports, presented each week by the Iron Grizz, next to the University of Montana Golf Course.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Colter Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. In Flagstaff, the Montana men fell 57-56 in a game in which the Grizz only attempted 2 free throws, missing them both in the final 30 seconds of regulation. Syed Pridgett had a jersey malfunction, and it did not work out for the senior, who had to wear number 12 throughout the game and only scored 8 points, did not have a bucket for the first 33 minutes of the contest, and did not reach double digits for the first time in 41 outings. Still, Montana was up 7 with over 3 minutes to go, but NAU went on an 8-0 run to close out the game and get the win. The loss drops Montana into a 3-way tie with Eastern Washington and Northern Colorado for first place at 13-4. UM's final road game of the season is tomorrow at Sacramento State.
Lady Grizz were down 10 after the first quarter against second-place Northern Arizona at Dahlberg Arena last night, but they outscored the Lumberjacks by 23 over the final 3 periods to earn a 70-57 victory to remain in 5th place in the Big Sky. Mackenzie Johnson led 4 Lady Grizz in double figures with 14. Montana now 10-7 and welcomes Sacramento State tomorrow at 2 p.m.
The Montana State men were blown out at Sacramento State last night, 81-52. The Cats travel to Northern Arizona tomorrow. And finally in Bozeman last night, the white-hot offense of the MSU women got even hotter as they hung 113 on Sacramento State in a 44-point blowout.
This ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law. From the Kurtz Polaris studio, here is Ryan Tootell and Colter Nuanez.
Boys and girls, what's going on? Happy weekend to you. Hope you are well out there in the world. The last weekend of February. It should be. Have we talked about leap year, Colter? It's leap day tomorrow. You pumped to get an extra day in 2020?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good. Try and curb your enthusiasm, if I may steal the title.
Celebrating. Happy birthday to my brother.
Oh, shout out. Brooks Nuanez. Was he actually, he was born on the February 28th, huh?
Yep.
Man, what a guy. Just gets more uniquer every day.
More uniquer. Gosh. You must be a philosophy major.
It's almost like it was deliberate.
You have a master's degree.
If you'd like to listen live, you could do so on the World Wide Web. Perhaps you've heard of that thing. It's pretty uniquer, too. 1029ESPN.com. You go there. You listen to the stream. The stream available all the time thanks to Opportunity Bank. Your local bank, your opportunity. If you would like to pick up your phone and call us, 329-1899 is the phone number. All guests join us via the Rankish Brothers RV phone line. And if you missed anything in the first hour, go check it out on the podcast. Podcast available all the time. Wherever you get your podcast, it is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel and Blackfoot Communications. Coulter, last night, the Montana State men, they went on the road to Sacramento State, and they got shellacked. 81-52 the final. They lose by 29. It is the second biggest margin of victory in the history of Sacramento State for a home conference game, right? Or for any conference game, I guess. For
any conference game since they joined the league in 1996, yes.
It was it just went all bad for Montana State last night. We asked, we talked yesterday about how are teams trending, and this is a Cat team that had won 3 of 4. They beat Idaho. They lost at Eastern Washington, but then they swept at home versus Idaho State and Weber State to get themselves to 8-6 in 2 games over 500. Then they lost on the road at Portland State, and then they lost on the road at home, but to the University of Montana in a hard-fought contest. They sat there at 500. You go, okay, this is who they are. Last night, you and I both said this is a monstrous game for Montana State in terms of trying to get the seed and also just to prove that, not to prove, I mean, we're 20-whatever games into the season. Teams are what they are. This is a team that has consistently, I think, played a little better than what their talent level is, but not well enough to beat good teams. But they haven't lost to bad teams, and Sacramento State, is sort of a middle-of-the-road team. But to lose by 29 to Sacramento State, that is not good, man.
Well, I mean, if Sac State isn't a bad team, then who is?
I mean,
that's the problem.
Are they 7 and are they 8-10?
They're 8-10. They're 8-10, so they're a game behind Montana State in the loss column. The question is, though, if Sac State isn't a bad team, then who is? And then it comes down to, is Montana State one of the bad teams?
Well, and again, I mean, they're a middle of the road team. They're 2 games under 500. Okay, so if you want to say they're bad, I guess. Right now, Idaho and Idaho State, they're the bad teams in the conference, and everybody else is like just okay, and then there's 3 good teams.
Right.
And so, but
when you get beat by that margin,
that's remarkable.
Harold Frey was not 100%, but that said, Montana State has just looked horrific offensively on the road. Harold Frey is one of my favorite players in the league. I think Danny Sprinkle's a good fit at Montana State. I jumped fully off the Cats bandwagon after their performance at Eastern Washington. I texted you. I said, it's over for the Cats. And you said, no, they just had a bad game. I said, no. On a neutral court and or away from their home court, I don't know how they can manufacture anything because regardless of Frey's health, if you pound him into the ground, like everybody has basically decided to do, they can't function on offense. And then you add the ankle injury, and they're deplorable on offense.
Yeah.
Even Idaho has Trayvon Allen, who can be a one-man offensive weapon and can get you a bucket when you absolutely got to have it. I'm just saying that right now, it's so easy to get high on the ebbs and flows of a season. And after they swept Weber State and Idaho State at home, and they're sitting there alone in 4th place, you're thinking, man, Danny Sprinkle, Coach of the Year candidate. Harold Frey, MVP candidate. But in reality, this team is likely going to finish below 500 in conference play and below 500 on the season, and they're likely not going to get a bye. And a lot of the optimism that existed just weeks ago will dissipate. And then it comes down to where are you at in terms of the actual improvements of the program? It's going to be a cruel irony for everybody that's associated with Montana State basketball if they just sit there and finish with a 500 record again, because it's what they had for literally 9 straight years of Brad Hughes, and with the exception of Brian Fish's first year, 4 more straight years of Brian Fish. They haven't been anything but 500. A testament to them, I guess, for never being horrifically bad, except for the year that Fish chose to bottom it out and stop doing the junior college thing just for a year. But, I mean, really, at the end of the day, I've said this since Danny Sprinkle was hired. At some point, if you have recruited guys like Mecklin Davis and Carlos Taylor and Christian Moon and Xavier Blunt and Antonio Bigelow and Tyler Hall and Harold Frey and Kelvin Blevins, and you have the exact same record, different coaches, an array of talent, and you still can't do anything but just go win one, lose one, win one, lose one, you need to take a deeper look at the structure of your program.
Sure, and that's fair, and that's fine. I also the caveat of Danny Sprinkle's first year at Montana State, as you said, the time that they were actually really bad was in Brian Fish's first year, and that was something like a deliberate act because it was an attempt to change the way the program was built, and then they got back to 500 but no higher. So Sprinkle comes in, and I think a lot of people expected worse than 500, and now they're basically at 500, a game below it. Last night specifically, they went 1 for 6 from beyond the arc, only attempted 6 3-pointers in the game. Layden Ricketts, man, he's a guy who needs to be the guy that can sit in there and fill it up and catch and shoot from the corner or from from beyond the arc, and he just really has not been that. He has not contributed in that way to this team. Broadly speaking, they were 3 of 20 from deep against the Grizzlies, and if Harold Frey, who can sit up there and fill it up too from beyond the arc, but he can't if everybody's just loading up on him defensively, and especially when he's not 100%. The other thing last night, 22 turnovers, man. I mean, you give the ball away 22 times in a basketball game, you're not winning. And in this case, it's not even close. They lose the turnover margin by 10, which is, obviously not, you're giving away 10 additional possessions to the other team just in that stat alone, to say nothing of rebounding. And then they were outshot from the field in terms of percentage by almost 10% as well. So it just went sideways completely. And really disappointing in a game that Montana State needed to have, that they came out and did not execute well really across the board. And now they got to go pick up the pieces against a Northern Arizona team that's feeling pretty good about themselves right now and has gotten to 10-8 and just beat the best team, the number one team in the Big Sky. Will that be something where they might, come back down? Will Montana State be able to play with some sort of anger and frustration and do something? I don't know, but it's got to be cleaner because this is a matter of execution at this point when you have 22 turnovers in a game.
It is, but also it's a matter of confidence, and that's what happens with this time of year when you're a team that maybe doesn't have the elite personnel. It comes down to your sense of belief, and I think that they were believing so much early in the year. Like when they beat South Dakota State, they're believing. What gives you the sense of belief? Your leader, your leadership, and that's where Harold Frey comes in. But when he's not 100% and you can't turn to him, it's so hard to ask guys this far into the year to readjust their roles and somehow find an initiative that they might have not had previously.
Right.
And what I'm saying with Montana State is that I think Saturday is an absolutely must-win game for them, and I don't know how they're going to be able to pull it off because personnel-wise they don't match up well with Northern Arizona. But it's a must-win game, not just because of the standings. You got to stop this slide. When you're talking about now you had the great sweep to get to 8-6. Now you're on a 3-game losing streak. You can't make it 4 and then have all the pressure with 2 teams that are undeniably more talented than you coming to Bozeman next weekend. You can't have a scenario where it's Harold Frey's senior night going against a Northern Colorado team that's gunning for first place, and you got to win that game to get a bye. I don't even know if that's going to still be in the cards at this exact moment. But here's the thing. I mean, you look at the teams that are below Montana State in the standings. I mean, Sac State just salvaged the split. Now they're only a half game back. Southern Utah has better personnel than Montana State. They do. But they're in a free fall right now.
Yeah.
But that's another worst-case scenario for Montana State. You can't let Southern Utah get right against you. Talk about a clashing of 2 desperate teams if next Thursday – those 2 teams are still on a skid. And even if they do both pick up wins on Saturday, they'll still be on a skid comparatively in the last couple weeks. I just think that it's desperation time for Montana State, and I don't know how you get right because it's going to take Harold Frey getting right health-wise, and when you're on the road, it's just so hard to rehab in a short span of time.
No question. I mean, he's got to be right, but also there's some math here, okay? Montana State's minus 10 in turnovers. They're also minus 12 in rebounds. Do you know what the margin was in shot attempts, Coulter? 25.
Right.
Sacramento State shot the ball 60 times. Well, and Montana State shot it 35 times.
And that's why you see that score, too. I mean, Sac State, if you told Brian Katz with this year's Sac State team, you could win 51-50, or you could win 80-81 to whatever it was last night, he would choose the former, not the latter. Their whole team is built on. They're one of the 5 slowest playing teams in the country. Their whole thing is based on grinding you into dust and beating you by a couple points. That's their whole strategy. So this score is an anomaly, but it's like you said, the reason that happened is because they got twice as many shots as Montana State because
and they got twice as many shots because they overwhelmed in the turnover and rebounding margin, so they're just getting more shots. Montana State got to be better, obviously, in those categories and even out all of that, because it's not even just a matter of scoring. Any team that just about doubles you up in attempts is going to win the basketball game, and they're going to win it going away. It's Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Coulter, the flip side of that coin is the Montana State women, who just continued to be just a completely unstoppable force. Last night, let's go back to February the 15th. They played Weber State. Here are the scores in the last 4 games for the Montana State women offensively. 102, 98, 92, the low water mark versus the Lady Grizz, and 113 last night as they roll Sacramento State 113-69. I mean, it's not even fair. They're scoring 25, 38, 33, 38 in quarters. These are NBA numbers in terms of quarters of scoring. I mean, if an NBA team had 38 points in a 12-minute quarter, they would be thrilled to death. It's like an all-star game, and yet this is what Montana State is doing basically game in and game out at this point. Completely remarkable. Oleana Squires led the team, still not 20 points, 19, but count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in double figures in this basketball game for Tricia Binford's squad. And this is where you start to go, I mean, it's already something special, okay, that's going on, but all of a sudden you start to look towards the postseason and go, whoa, how good is this team really? I mean, how good is this team right now really?
It's really too bad that they couldn't steal one of. They played a premier schedule.
Texas A&M,
Gonzaga, Minnesota, Wichita State. If they could have just stole one of those games,
and they were close, they had single digits in like 3 of those 4, 2 of those 4 for sure.
But that said, I think this is a special team that they've been building towards for a long time. It takes a lot to be special, especially when you have 5 seniors returning, but then you're going to splice in the 3 freshmen. Coach Binford talked on our show 2 weeks ago about the freshmen proving themselves in the summer, earning the trust of the seniors. I think that's a huge factor here. But this team has a chance to set some records, both within school records and Big Sky records. Last night they won their 16th league game. And that ties the all-time record. Now, the Big Sky used to play a 16-game league schedule, so it ties a couple Montana teams that ran the table. It also ties, I believe Northern Colorado went 16-2 last year in league play, or maybe that was 2 years ago. Regardless, 16 is the most Big Sky wins. Mm-hmm. It'll come with a little bit of a caveat if they surpass it because there's only been 2 20-game schedules. Yeah. But I don't care who you are. If you go 19-1 and you put it all the way out there, because of the travel in this league, it doesn't matter if the league's down, which this year it is. It doesn't matter. If you are the superior team against a bunch of other teams that don't have the veteran experience that you do, if you put that thing way out there with 19 wins and you get up into the 24, 25, 26 win range overall, it's an amazing and memorable year. And I think that Montana State, Tricia Binford, deserves a ton of credit. And I was thinking this last night at the Lady Grizz game. The Lady Grizz game was incredibly physical and at times really ugly. But I've said it on the show before, I'll say it again. People that are haters on women's basketball, they need to watch it because they haven't watched it recently. The implementation and the emphasis on three-point shooting and skill development has been so tremendous. And if you're a basketball purist that likes ball movement and rotations and really complex screen actions and things like that, as well as really crisp defensive rotations, take the spectacular element of the athleticism out from comparing it to the men's game. Like this Montana State team, in terms of the way that they play the game, the way that they execute offensively, they are far superior to anybody in the league, men or women. And if you're a basketball purist, you'll love watching them play. Last night, they could have scored 125 if they would have wanted to. They had 96 points going in the fourth quarter, and then Tricia Binford called off the Dogs. It's funny because...
Do you think she called off the Cats?
God, knew you were going there. It was sort of funny, though, because she's played 9 pretty consistently all year. So there's not really there's only a couple gals that are like true bench players that don't ever get to play. Like so many of the people play a lot.
Right. You can put in the just about a full new 5, and it's not like you're putting in kids who have not played
Madison
minutes.
Jackson and Cola Badbear get a ton of minutes. So just playing your reserve freshmen when you're trying to call up the Dogs, it doesn't really necessarily get you that far. But I mean, what number do you need to know more than 29 assists? I mean, that's an impressive number for Montana State last night.
I don't know, 113. That's the number I need to know.
And it's this Sac when Bucky Harkleroad first hit the league at Sac State, and that Sac State team finished second in the conference, and they won a couple games in the tournament. The style was making headlines. I mean, they were actually getting coverage by the Sacramento Bee. We wrote a big feature at Skyline Sports about the style, and he wants to shoot 100 shots. He wants to shoot 53s. He wants to get 40% of the offensive rebounds. He wants to force 30 turnovers. Well, that's all fine and good, and if you have good players, they just haven't recruited that well at Sac State, and so this is the flip side of that, right?
Yeah.
When you play that style and you play against a point guard like Darian White, who's not encumbered by your press whatsoever, you're going to lose by 45. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see where Sac State goes from here, because they do have a relatively new AD. They do have some momentum going in sports, particularly with the resurgence of football under Troy Taylor. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Sac State women's basketball, but I'm interested to see how the Lady Grizz do on Saturday, because in terms of running and gunning, outside of Montana State, Montana is actually probably the best transition team in the league. That's where they're at their best, because they have two ball handlers that can handle it, Sophia Stiles and Mackenzie Johnston. So maybe fireworks at Dahlberg Arena tomorrow as well with this style that Sac State plays. But nonetheless, Montana State's women are straight rolling. I mean, 12-game winning streak, which I believe is a school record. Last night they clinched the title outright, so they cut down the nets after the Lady Grizz game. Last night they paraded the trophy around the brick. It's cool to watch girls that have stuck it out, like several of their seniors have, and then also welcome transfers to the mix.
Yeah.
Because Fallon Freege and Martha Cooter are both transfers that could have not gone well when you pair them with Oleana Squires and Madeline Smith and Blair Braxton, but it has. And then they also add the trio of freshmen into the mix. It's a great example of how great coaching in terms of the chemistry element can go so well. They deserve a ton of credit because it is a very special team.
It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Take a quick break. On the other side, the district and divisional tournaments have officially kicked off. We'll give you some score updates, let you know where we stand heading into the weekend here, and get you set for what is going to be an outstanding state tournament coming up next week right after this. Hey, the Polaris New Year's sales event is on, and now is the time to find your perfect ride at Kurtz Polaris, with financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months and savings of up to $3,500. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. The mountains are full of snow, and Kurtz has all the best machines, apparel, and accessories to take full advantage of the season online at KurtzPolaris.com. The most fun you can have in snow. Kurtz Polaris. Winter awaits.
At Opportunity Bank of Montana, we know that checking accounts are not one size fits all. Let us introduce you to Opportunity Bank's full suite of checking account products, including personal and business options with no minimum balance and no monthly service fee. Or if earning cash back suits you, Opportunity Reward Checking may be the perfect fit. Need to earn interest? We have those options too. Call or come into Opportunity Bank for a checking account that fits you. Opportunity Bank of Montana, serving Montanans since 1922. Member FDIC.
Have you been in an accident and have no idea what to do? I'm here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys.
Unfortunately, people are injured in accidents every day, and dealing with the insurance company can add even more pain to an already bad situation. That is where hiring the advocates can help. Let us guide you through the process and take on the hassles for you so you can just focus on getting better.
If you've been injured in an accident, give the Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. The Advocates are on your side.
College basketball madness is happening again, and there's only one place in town to catch all the games, the Desperado. Catch every buzzer beater, every Cinderella story, and every upset on the Despo's 32 TVs, while getting your fill of the best hot wings Missoula has to offer, of course. Bracket busted? The Despo's got you covered there too, with cold drinks by the pint or pitcher. The Despo is your headquarters for NCAA basketball, NHL, and NASCAR too. The Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell, across from the Y.
Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast, episode 7 is out now, featuring a University of Montana legend, Larry Christowiak. Coulter, Coach Krzysztofiak had one of the great playing careers at the University of Montana and then returned to his alma mater to be the head coach for 2 seasons in 04 and 05 and 05 and 06. Went to the NC2A tournament both seasons, and in his second and final season at UM, they became the last team in the Big Sky Conference to win an NC2A tournament game.
We call this the Grizz Greats, and he is one of the greatest Grizz of them all. Larry Krzysztofiak, an in-state product who went to high school in Missoula, was the only 3-time MVP in the history of Montana basketball and the only player to ever score 2,000 points and grab 1,000 rebounds in his decorated career. A phenomenal career for Larry Krzysztofiak that continues to this day at the University of Utah.
Just search Grizz Greats wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and enjoy the entire series of Grizz Greats, available thanks to Blackfoot Communications, Stockman's Bar, and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate. Coulter people look at the calendar, may think about college basketball, March Madness, various things going on in the professional world, but this is an unbelievable time of year for high school sports.
In February, the competition really ratchets up in high school sports. We're headed toward the state tournaments of both basketball and wrestling, and we'll cover it all at Tootell and Nuanez, 4 to 6 p.m. every single weekday on 102.9 ESPN.
That's right, covering what matters in the state of Montana. Montana's #1 sports talk radio show, Tootell and Nuanez.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Coulter Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. In Flagstaff, the Montana men fell to NAU 57-56 in a game in which the Grizz only attempted 2 free throws, missing them both in the final seconds of the game. Saeed Pridgett had a jersey malfunction. It did not work out well for the senior who wore number 12, but scored only 8 points, was shut out for the first 33 minutes of the game. He failed to reach double digits for the first time in his last 41 outings. Still, Montana was up 7 with over 3 minutes to go, but NAU closed the game on an 8-0 run for the win. The loss drops the Grizz to a 3-way tie for first place with Eastern Washington and Northern Colorado, who were both winners last night. UM's final road game of the season is tomorrow at Sacramento State.
Lady Grizz went down 10 after the first quarter against second-place NAU at the Adams Center last night, but they outscored the Lumberjacks by 23 over the final 3 quarters to earn a 70-57 victory to remain in 5th place in the Big Sky. Mackenzie Johnson led the Lady Grizz with 14 points. Montana is now 10-7, tied with Southern Utah, and they welcome a struggling Sac State team to Missoula tomorrow.
The Montana State men, they were blown out at Sacramento State last night, 81-52. The Cats travel to Northern Arizona tomorrow. And finally, in Bozeman last night, the white-hot offense of the MSU women got even hotter as they hung 113 on Sacramento State in a 44-point blowout. Montana State welcomes NAU tomorrow, looking for their 17th win of the conference year. It took me about a week, but finally, on your brother's birthday, Coulter, I finally made a shot. I'm so happy. He gave us a basketball hoop, and I shot my waste paper into it.
Wheels were on the line.
Well, I don't care if they're on the line, man. I don't care about anything. Banked it in, just like I called it. Stu Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. SWX Montana Television. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, check us out on the TV or on the YouTube. Tootell Nuanez is on the YouTube, boys and girls. Go take a look at us there. We appreciate that. Coulter, it's time for our Farmers State Bank Prep Extra segment. Farmers State Bank is giving away 10 $10,000 scholarships to high school seniors all over Western Montana. Tremendous. They've been doing this 21 years, have given over $1.2 million in scholarships over the last couple of decades, and they're doing it big for their 20th anniversary of this scholarship. So go to farmersebank.com. You have until March 15th. Tomorrow is the last day of February, people, so you got to get on at farmersebank.com. Coulter, it's the divisional round of the tournaments that have been going on across the state, and we are getting into the place right now where we're closing in on divisional championships, which are setting both who's going and the seeds for the state championships across the state, both boys and girls. I know in Class A in the East, it has been Hardin who has beaten Livingston in the semifinal earlier on this afternoon. They won 67-33.
That's guys or girls?
Boys.
Livingston beat Hardin.
No, Hardin. Did I say that? I'm sorry. Hardin just about doubled up Livingston. 67, in fact, did.
I was going to say.
No.
If anybody beats Hardin.
Nobody's beaten Hardin. Favors left hand to the house. 67-33, the win there.
How are we going to bring back the Big 32? I want to see Hellgate versus Hardin.
Yes.
I want to see Lodgegrass versus Sentinel. I want to see all of it.
Should be. Billings Central versus Laurel, by the way, is the other semifinal. That's just getting going right now. The winner of that game will be playing Hardin for the Eastern A boys district or divisional championship, and have a number 1 or 2 seed at the state tournament is what they'll be looking at there when that thing gets rolling. Is Hardin going to win the state championship?
Absolutely.
Okay. Glad you. There's a lot of confidence. The semifinal on the girls' side, by the way, Havre, Butte Central, and Laurel versus Hardin as well on the Eastern A side. The Western boys bracket, in terms of the divisional round of this thing, is still got a lot to be filled in. They started a day later on the Western side of things. So in the semifinals, Frenchtown versus Butte Central, and then Whitefish versus Browning. They have yet to play. They'll play today, and the winner of that will be in the championship there. Who do you like from the West, Coulter, when it comes to the boys?
I don't know. I think that the West is the Western A and the Western A for boys and the Western Double A for girls is both very hard to predict. There's a lot of strong teams.
Corvallis, Whitefish, Hamilton, Frenchtown in the semifinals for Western A for the girls in those divisional rounds. And then Coulter, you also mentioned last night in Double A, the last day of the regular season, and the Hellgate boys, they finished in style, winning at Sentinel, completing the season sweep, of everybody. They finished the year undefeated, including, obviously, the city championship. But, 18-0? Is that what they got to?
18-0 in the regular season, yep.
And Raleigh Wooster and his Hellgate Knights now look for the only prize they have yet to obtain in Wooster's very nice, but understating it, outstanding high school career, and that is the state championship, which they are certainly favored in, but they've been favored before, and I wonder how much that plays into what we're about to see this next week at the Double A level.
How many state championships did Trace Tinkle win? Just one, right?
Yeah, because I think that's right. I think just one. I'd have to look up.
I think it's very interesting that over the last 20 years, some of the greatest basketball players in Montana have come out of Missoula, and very few of them have actually tasted the ultimate glory. I mean, I tell this story all the time, but the Missoula Sentinel team that had Jordan Haskett and Eric Hankel, as well as Jordan's little brother, Kellen Haskett, who was also like a stretch 4, who was 6'6" or 6'7", as well as Eric's younger brother, Mark Hankel. Those guys both went on to be all Frontier Conference players as well. So you have 4 college-bound basketball players, including 2 D1 guys. Jordan Haskett, who goes on to score 1,300-plus points at Montana. Those guys never even made it to the state championship game.
Yeah.
Missoula Hellgate with Jack McGillis, Charlie Cox, Trevor Morris. Those guys, they won the one championship our senior year, but other than that, they struggled. It's just interesting that there's been the guys that have been even above the Big Sky level, Pac-12 level talents, haven't had as much success as you'd expect, especially given the perception of a rural state like Montana.
Absolutely. And, one thing that I think is sort of explanatory in this is the lack of a shot clock.
I think that's definitely part of it. I also think that it's very interesting because when you look, especially back at my era, there was a bunch of dudes that were college athletes that maybe could have played college basketball but didn't because they played college football. But CMR won 3 or maybe even 4 straight state championships, and they had Jason Goodman, who went and played tight end at Washington, Brady Leaf, who went and played quarterback at Oregon, Royce Fulp, who went and played running back at Colorado State.
Still pretty sacked.
But those guys all could have probably played, at Carroll College or something for hoops,
Sure.
And so a lot of times, but like you're saying too, a lot of times it just comes down to
in a one and done deal. If all of a sudden you can get a 4 or 5 point lead in that first quarter, you could just kind of hang on to it, move on to the second quarter, and now you're just extending the game in a way that you can.
No doubt. The Butte High team that played for the state championship in Missoula, I think about 06. No, maybe it was 04. Is Cole Anderson was on that team and a bunch of other football guys, and they just beat everybody 52-48 because they were just tougher than you, and they'd just pass it around until they throw it in the big guy, he'd score, and then they just D you up so hard.
Right.
I think there is an element of that. I also think the pressure element, though.
Yes.
Yes. How many times have we said on this show, Raleigh Wooster has not won a state championship? That's a narrative around the state. I think that Hellgate's so much better than the competition this year. They're going to do it.
What is their closest game this year?
Right.
Because there's other times where they've been a 1 or even 2-loss team, even though they've been the favorite going into the state tournament. And you go, they got these great players and these Division I guys and this, that, and the other. But the distance, the separation this year between Hellgate and the field is substantial and bigger than it's ever been for in the duration of Raleigh Wooster's career. As we get into the actual state tournaments next week and the brackets that shape up, we get to the final 8. We'll go through all the classifications with you and have all of the coverage here on Tootell and Nuanez as it's happening off in real time on this very show.
To answer your question, Hellgate's averaging 69.9 points per game. They're giving up 41.2. So their average margin of victory is 28.7, almost 30 points per game.
I mean, that's
at the AA level, that's amazing.
That's amazing at just about any level.
It is, but sometimes at the smaller school levels, you can get those. Our Lee beat a couple teams last year by 80.
When you have an actual program as opposed to these are the 5 kids we found to get on the floor. That's a fair point. It's Tootell Nuanez. That is our Prep Extra segment. It's brought to us by the Farmers State Bank. Farmers State Bank. Online at farmersebank.com. Go there right now. $10,000 scholarships for high school seniors in Western Montana. You would be crazy not to go take a look at this. Fill out the application and get a great check, big help for school for high school seniors around Western Montana. Go Farmers eBank right now and check that out. We'll take a break. On the other side, we'll take a look at what's coming up tomorrow. A look at the weekend, the NFL Combine. Dante Olson has competed in one event. Didn't go great. We'll tell you about that and the 2-minute mashup to round out the week right after this.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
Seafood lovers, it's time to get cracking at the Montana Club's annual Lobster Fest. Feast on one of our 19 mouth-watering lobster dishes, live Maine lobster, succulent lobster tail, and tantalizing one-of-a-kind lobster specialties. 3 big days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, March 5th through the 7th. It only happens once a year. Don't miss it. See the menu at montanaclub.com. The Montana Club's Lobster Fest on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Alignment and Brakes and Shocks and Wheels and Tires. Some tire places don't offer all that, but we do to help keep you safe. It's our Les Schwab Founders Celebration. Get $50 off an alignment. That's nearly half off regular price when you purchase 4 Reputation or Open Range AT tires all month long. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
Hey guys, you ever heard of Magic Johnson?
Rings a bell.
One of the greatest basketball superstars of all time played for a man named Judd Heathcote at Michigan State. And guess what? Judd Heathcote started his career at the University of Montana.
Coulter, did you know that 2 former University of Montana head coaches have been head coaches in the NBA and 1 on Team USA?
Isn't that amazing?
And that's why we've created Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcast. Just search Grizz Greats.
It's a phenomenal and historic podcast series proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate.
Older people look at the calendar, may think about college basketball, March Madness, various things going on in the professional world, but this is an unbelievable time of year for high school sports.
In February, the competition really ratchets up in high school sports. We're headed toward the state tournaments of both basketball and wrestling, and we'll cover it all at Tootell and Nuanez, 4 to 6 p.m. every single weekday on 102.9 ESPN.
That's right, covering what matters in the state of Montana. Montana's #1 sports talk radio show, Tootell and Nuanez. Hey guys, Ryan Tootell and Colton Nuanez from Tootell and Nuanez. Hey, we're not just here for your entertainment, we're also a bastion of knowledge and information as well.
If you want to know what's going on in the world of youth sports, from sign-ups to camps and other activities, tune into Tootell and Nuanez on Tuesday.
That's right, interviews and information with people who know to make sure that your kids get all the best in sports that Missoula has to offer this Tuesday on Tootell and Nuanez.
The youth sports segment is brought to you by Pepsi Cola of Missoula, proudly supporting youth athletics in the Garden City.
Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Coulter. It's almost the weekend, bud.
What's that mean?
It's the time where I do the same thing I do here, but I just do it at home. It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Happy to be with you on this Friday evening. Hope you are well. Hope you're having a wonderful, lead into the weekend. It's always fun on a Friday, seems to me. It's just a little something about the spirit of the thing. If you'd like to listen on the World Wide Web, you can do that. Check out the podcast, available all the time. Search Tootell and Nuanez. Go listen, subscribe, rate, review. We appreciate all that you do on the podcast for us. Wingate by Wyndham Hotel brings that to us, along with Blackfoot Communications. Hey, if you need a new car, Mildenberger Motors in Hamilton, they've been serving Western Montana for over 60 years. Get in, test drive Duramax, GMC, or Chevy. Feel the difference and get the best deal at Mildenberger Motors. Coulter, the NFL Combine has been going on this week. The linebackers, which is most notable for folks who follow the University of Montana, because Dante Olson is a Grizzly who is in the Combine. They do all of their stuff tomorrow with the exception of the bench press. They did the bench press today, and Dante Olson did 15 reps, which is not a great mark for the linebackers by any stretch. Let's just put it like this: he's much better in the leg movements and moving around than the strength things. He's always been a lower body guy, much more than an upper body guy. The straight weightlifting too is not. There's explanations for that. That's not something I'd be overly concerned about. I don't think that there was a lot of expectations by anybody that he was going to go in and blow it out of the water on the bench press.
No, but it's below the baseline of what your absolute minimum expectation would be. I think you'd expect every person that's going to play linebacker in the NFL to be able to do 20 reps.
Yeah.
20.
Okay.
If the punter from Arizona State can do 25, you'd expect that the Buck Buchanan winner can. I'm not trying to hate on Dante Olson. All I'm saying is that someone that weighs over 225 pounds should be able to rep their own body weight 20 times.
Different position. You know how many reps Christian McCaffrey did?
8.
10. I think 10. Was it 8? Okay.
He's also had multiple shoulder surgeries. Dante Olson has not. He's also runs a 4.4 flat.
Whoa.
And what was Christian McCaffrey's broad jump? Like 11 feet? Was it the greatest broad jumps of all time?
I understand. All I'm saying is that it is, it's what it is. I think that there's a lot to come tomorrow that may
I agree.
Balance this thing out.
All I'm saying, I'm not trying to be a hater. All I'm saying is that you just can't, when you're a small school guy, you can't disappoint based on what the bare minimum requirement is. And this is disappointing for Dante Olson, no matter what way you slice it.
Christian McCaffrey's broad jump was 121 inches.
So 10
he
feet.
Did the bench press 10 times.
10 times.
Okay.
10 feet. So not as far as I had thought.
But 2 more reps.
What did he run the 40 in, David? 4.4 and change?
4.4 exactly.
4.4 flat, yeah.
That's fast. That is moving. You talk about the disappointment of it, though. Maybe. I just think that there was a lot of scouts that did not have a lot of high expectations in terms of what he was going to do on the bench, and I don't know what he had. We'll find out certainly more about that. We also, though, wanted to talk about what's going on at ESPN.com. You go to ESPN.com right now. The lead story: how workout warrior Mike Mamula changed the future of the NFL Combine in 1995. Mike Mamula is the father of current University of Montana Grizzly defensive lineman Milton Mamula. And Mike Mamula went to the Combine and is basically credited with being the first guy, the first player to ever actually prepare to do the events of the Combine. Like, you knew you were going to do these things. It wasn't something that was televised. It wasn't something that was even that high on any. There's so much stuff going on inside the NFL that's a big deal to people who are in the NFL that the general public has no idea about or doesn't know, the stuff that's going on. Well, the Combine was once that thing where it was a big deal to scouts. This is how they, kind of do this thing. But it wasn't understood, like the significance of it on the outside, and even to players that were going into it. They just kept doing their football thing or whatever, or maybe took some time off, finally got done with college, whatever. Sure, I'll go in, I'll bench press or do whatever. Mike Mamula goes in to the NFL Combine as a defensive end. He goes 38.5 inches on the vertical jump, 26 reps on the bench press, a Wonderlic score of 49, which is still the second best in history to this day. And he ran a 4.58 in the 40, which was faster than the average cornerback in the 1995 draft and combine. I mean, that is a flash. And he told his agent, Brad Blank, at the time that he would run a 4.5, according to the story. And Blank just said, well, there's no chance. And he ran 4.58 and went in the first round of the NFL draft, basically based. He's the first guy to ever just explode in the draft, and every team goes, we got to get this guy based on what he showed them in this that was just better than everybody else, because he took the time to go in there and take it seriously and learn how to do this stuff.
It's amazing the positive and negative impact that performance had, right?
Yes.
He was the first combine freak, and I think it showed everybody how much value it can have in preparing for these workouts and just letting it rip.
Yep.
But also, I think that it's a cautionary tale, too, because, like we keep saying, so much of this is important, and also so much of it is not as important as how good you are at football.
Well, and also, I mean, Mike Mamula was a victim of, as many guys are, significant injuries, right, in his career. And so how good he was or could have been and all of that, though, hard to say. To your point, I mean, there's so many examples of guys who nail the combine who are great. Mm-hmm. And so many examples of guys who nail the combine that are not great at football. And that's why, it needs – I don't understand – I don't know – not understand. I don't know the different valuation, and I'm sure it differs organization to organization. The NFL franchise – that puts the most value on your combine workout probably overemphasizes it.
Well, the Raiders used to be that.
And the
I don't know who it is now, but the Raiders used to be that.
And then the franchise that puts the least amount on it, maybe they undervalue it. But you got to know that all of this is done within an integrated sort of valuation of the player, of the person. I mean, they're doing the interviews, they're doing the psych exams. The Wonderlic is a great example of mental aptitude mixed with pressure because you're on the clock and all of that kind of stuff, how quickly. But we've seen guys go single digits on the Wonderlic who were all pro players. So again, none of these is anything like a surefire. It's merely trying to gather, information. And I wonder at what point you're gathering too much information. I mean, you go like, hey, can this dude play football or can't he?
Well, some of it's just research, too, into the guys, right?
Right.
Today, Henry Ruggs from Alabama, he ran a 4.27.
Yep.
Henry Ruggs was a multiple-time state champion sprinter. He ran like 10.2 or 10.3 in high school.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to run. He knows how to start out of the blocks and stuff like that, and that's what gets you from 4.4 to 4.2.
That's right.
So, I don't know. I'm looking at the greatest combine performances of all time. I mean, Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders. I think those are pretty translatable. Dwight Freeney, pretty translatable. Matt Jones, Fabian Washington, Darius Hayward-Bay. Not very translatable, so it is still sort of a crapshoot.
And this is the one. How about Mekhi Becton from Ole Miss? He's an offensive tackle, people, interior offensive lineman, 364 pounds, 6 foot 7.5 inches tall.
Woof.
And he ran a 5.1 40, and if you watch it, it is a train running down. It's absolutely
Put him
remarkable.
on kickoff,
you
man.
Go, how in the world can this guy do this? But also, I sit there and I go,
Louisville.
Louisville. Excuse me, Louisville. Yes, thank you, David. Louisville. Who cares that a tackle can run a 5.1? I mean, it's amazing, but also can he block? And I'm sure that he can. But it's like, so what that he ran in a straight line? When's he going to do that? You should put him on kickoff. You're right. Let this guy run downhill and mash somebody.
No doubt. I mean, it's indicative of his athleticism, though, which shows then his upside for development.
Right. I mean, it's an indicator, but again, it ain't the thing that you're out there doing. I mean, at least a wide receiver is often running a 40-yard dash or whatever it is. Anyway, Dante Olson will do the majority, of course, of his events tomorrow, and hopefully, we'll show well, acquit himself well on this national stage. It's Friday, boys and girls. We like to do this around here, take a look at the week that was and smash it into 2 minutes. It's the Tootell and Nuanez Friday afternoon 2-minute mashup.
First of all, it's a great weekend because it's a Cat Grizz weekend.
Hello, Montana.
Sometimes you get what you deserve.
I am tired, though.
You can just tell Bozeman is just a buzz right now, man. It's the campus, the town, everything's just booming.
There's a lot of things to like in the state of Montana. There's a couple things that you kind of go, well, okay.
I love the ice and the cold and the wind and the snow and all the misery that everybody complains about. It gives me great joy. I'm happy you can't drive. I'm happy that you're cold. I enjoy all of it. It's my favorite part about living in Montana.
I know where I live, okay? I'm from here, okay? I hate fishing.
You're not going to find a better recruiter than Brian Fish.
I think that factor gets lost.
If you were to have me do a power rankings of jobs in the league, I would tell you that Northern Arizona and Southern Utah's women's programs are dead last in Big Sky basketball jobs, men's and women's.
Let them go run around, put like one person in there, an employee to hang out or whatever.
But go check out my Twitter.
I think I saw of the actual concert probably a grand total of about 8 to 9 minutes.
What have you been doing?
Right.
Why are you not prepared? This is your job interview. What is going on with you?
Because I was, upside down. I've been knocked over to the ground. Now I got my, face stuck in somebody's back. It's great.
This guy can play in the NFL.
You lose weight.
I'm just trying to derail this because this is the last thing in the world I want to talk about.
You are so bitter. Maybe this is why you're so angry, is because you only believe things you can see. Let's think about things that we can't see.
No!
This is dumb.
There's only one basketball, right?
Here's the thing. Like, at the point that you've been invited to the combine, you have crossed a threshold that's a very impressive one.
All these guys now are posing in terms of their authenticity of their swagger compared to that guy.
What an interesting deal that would be.
Montana has made it to the NCAA tournament 7 out of the last 14 years and 5 out of the last 10 years. They haven't performed even close to well.
That's the one example that works for.
So describe Flagstaff for people that haven't been.
Rural Southwest deal of being in the desert, the high desert, living off the grid, all that kind of stuff. Not sitting here talking about just like crazy people who are chasing UFOs in Roswell, but there is a lot of the culture of that world.
It's an epically beautiful place.
Let's go.
Let's go. Flagstaff will never not be weird.
Yeah. Those are some of the things that are advantages.
Missoula remains a very funky and very cool town.
I got many thoughts. I'll leave them at this point. David, great work in the back. David, how long does it take you to find all this stuff again and put it back in there?
It's a few-hour process for sure.
That's remarkable work right there. I like, too, how you put the fishing and the fish together. Don't think that was lost on me.
That was my mistake, honestly.
Are you kidding me?
That was just totally a coincidence, and then I listened to it back, and I was like, oh, that's nice.
Me admitting I've taken a lot of risks on this show, said things that I wasn't sure how it was going to go over. The biggest risk I've ever taken, Coulter, was admitting to this state that I hate to fish. I feel like I'm going to drive home, and there's just going to be a group of people in there, with their gaiters on their glasses and their fly rods, waiting to give me lashes as I try and get back into my house.
Hey, at this day and age, everybody's accepting of everything, so I think you're good.
The thing that's
actually, most of the fishers around here say good riddance.
Exactly. That's the beautiful thing about Montana, because if you're not into the thing that everybody else is, they're like, well, one less person to fight against.
That's like I was talking to my buddy Matt, who lives in Augusta on a ranch, and he's a big hunter, and he lives on this ranch where he's literally the only human that lives on this place. And he was showing me a picture of his elk, and I was like, man, that's a beautiful animal. Where'd you get that? He goes, I'm not telling you. I said, well, I would have to come ask you to even go onto the property.
Have you ever hunted an elk?
Oh, yeah, a couple times when I was a kid.
Okay.
Not into it. I like bird hunting.
Okay, that's good.
I'm into pheasants and ducks, things like that. That's my old man was really into that, too. The 4 a.m. thing, not my thing.
Yes, it is. Just on the way out rather than the way in.
Right, totally.
Or vice versa.
And, reminds me of Star Wars, the gutting of the giant animal, and it comes all out. And
someday on this show, I'll tell you a story about me getting a piece of game by myself and trying to refer back to a YouTube video I watched on how to deal with it. Well, it didn't go that well for me. Boys and girls, have a wonderful weekend. Basketball tomorrow. Who knows what on Sunday? We'll see you Monday. ESPN Radio.
I'm wasted.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
Have you been in an accident and have no idea what to do? I'm here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys.
Unfortunately, people are injured in accidents every day, and dealing with the insurance company can add even more pain to an already bad situation. That is where hiring the advocates can help. Let us guide you through the process and take on the hassles for you so you can just focus on getting better.
If you've been injured in an accident,